If you're watching this, yes, you probably come from a country where football or soccer is the most popular sport. There are big stadiums full of cheering fans, big clubs, big contracts, big stars that you can aspire to be. But as strange as it may feel when you grow up in that environment, there are countries where that's just not the case at all. And no, I'm not talking about us, the United States, as much as we're painted as not a footballing or soccering powerhouse. Fight! And win! We have been to 3 of the last 4 knockouts at World Cups and are hosting our 2nd World Cup soon. There is a level for nations way below that, a level inhabited by nations like Fiji. And before you say Fiji is insignificant or incapable, it's 3 times the size of Iceland, which has a footballing history that quickly became the stuff of legend. Hi, England. And in fact, Fiji is capable of competing at a world-class level in major sports. It's 10th in the world in rugby at the moment. But it doesn't really pay any attention to football. Its national team has never made the World Cup. It's never even gotten close. The Oceania equivalent of the Euros or Copa America is called the OFC Nations Cup, and it's never even seen Fiji make the final. That's something accomplished by powerhouses like Papua New Guinea or Vanuatu or New Caledonia. Hell, Tahiti won the entire thing in 2012 in an upset over New Zealand that sent Tahiti to the Confed Cup, but not Fiji. Never Fiji. Their clubs have never even won an OFC Champions League. The vast majority of their national team is not professional at all because it comes from their domestic league, which is not fully professional. But there is one exception. Every time the team sheet gets put together for the Fijian national team, he sticks out like a sore thumb. He's the only Fijian player that plays at a top level in a nation outside Fiji, and as a result, he's one of the rarest sights in all of football. His name is Roy Krishna, and he is a football unicorn. A football unicorn so extreme, he's the only documented professional player, fully professional player from his country. Let me put it to you this way. There are more Fijian-born people that have played in the NFL, American football, than have become professional footballers. And Krishna was born in a humble sugar mill town in Siberia, Labasa, Fiji. You have to Google it a bunch to make sure it's true, but Siberia, Fiji. Right. And the born and raised in Fiji part is very important here because this isn't the story of a player that was born and raised in an area with great youth coaching and great youth development and then decided to represent the nation of their heritage for a large number of incredibly valid reasons. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all, but it is important for this story to point out the commitment and the determination and just the incredible luck required to do something from an area that nobody's ever done before. Nobody's ever even gotten close. And that's what Roy Krishna has done. The family was not particularly well off, and Roy grew up playing rugby with his friends like everybody else in Fiji, but his father noticed that his son took a particular interest in a rather peculiar sport, football. So when Roy's school asked his father, Ball, to buy Roy cleats so that he could play on the school team, Ball spent the family's entire weekly rice budget on that pair of cleats. He picked up playing for his school, St. Mary's, and that's all he was doing for his soccer career. It's all he could do. There were really no clubs to play for. He played for his school, he played rugby with his friends, and just kicked balls around fields. He told the Deccan Herald, "During my time, there were hardly any grassroots programs. I played in the mud, grass, and rice fields. You put 2 posts and play." And it wasn't just his physical world that was different. His mental development was different too. He didn't have access to the same type of superstars that other kids grew up idolizing at the time. There was no Ronaldinho, there was no Ronaldo, or other Ronaldo, or Lionel Messi. He didn't have access to a smartphone until his footballing career was well underway. Instead, he idolized players like Simon Maradona Peters, who played at Labasa FC in Fiji. He was Fiji's star striker in the early 90s, who led the Fijian national team to a 1991 South Pacific Games gold medal in football, the highest honor the Fijian national team has ever achieved. But Roy didn't look like he'd reached the level of even his local idols, at least until his school qualified for a tournament on the main island of Fiji, Viti Levu. It was quite literally his last chance, and predictably, the tournament on the main island was his launching pad. He got picked up by Labasa FC, the same club that had his idol Simon Peters up top, and he quickly got onto the radar of the FA because of it. He got added immediately to the Fijian under-20 national team, and signs of his star power started to show immediately once he was off his home island. He won the Golden Boot at the U20 OFC Nations Cup for Fiji in 2007. He would play just 1 season with Labasa FC, making 10 appearances and scoring a really healthy 7 goals. But it was at that point that he, again, got very lucky. Despite his golden boot at the OFC Nations Cup, he was a relative unknown in his first season playing in the Fijian League, but a scout had come over from New Zealand. They'd come to Fiji to watch a match Roy Krishna was in, but not to actually watch Roy Krishna. But as Roy puts it, I did well in the game and he took me. I came to New Zealand on an amateur contract, played football, and coached kids part-time. I knew it would be hard to get A-League clubs to believe in a player from Oceania, so I waited. Now, it is impossible to imagine the huge leap of faith that this took. A young kid in his first year of playing semi-professional ball in his domestic league that leaves his home country at the age of 20 to chase a dream. But it's not unfair to guess that given Fiji's non-existent history as a professional footballing nation, that a lot of people thought he was insane. I was told playing sport wouldn't give you food. Who will look after you if you get injured? Why don't you get an education and get a proper job? But his determination would overcome all the noise. It would just take time. A lot of time. The signs were there that Roy Krishna could actually be something very special. As he moved to New Zealand, Roy Krishna made his debut in the senior team for Fiji, and he promptly scored a hat trick against Tuvalu. Now, Fiji won that match 16-0, so the hat trick wasn't anything particularly impressive. But the following year at the OFC Nations Cup, he did do something particularly impressive. He scored 2 goals in a 2-0 win over New Zealand at that OFC Nations Cup. The same New Zealand that would use that Nations Cup to qualify for the 2010 World Cup and then become the only team not to lose at the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. There's your fun fact of the day. The 2-0 win was one of the biggest results in Fijian footballing history, and Krishna scored both goals. And yet, a professional contract never came. He had come to New Zealand to play at Waitakere United, and that is not a professional level, although it is the top league in New Zealand. But there were rumors, always rumors, an invitation from PSG saying that they'd wanted to sign him, only for Roy Krishna to get scared because he was still learning English and he didn't want to have to take on another language. There was Derby County in the English Championship that offered him a month-long trial, only for him to have visa issues because he was getting his permanent residency in New Zealand. He went on trials with A-League clubs, but nothing stuck, despite continuing his outstanding performance for the Fiji national team and for Waitakere United. He won the New Zealand Football Championship 5 times. He scored 55 goals in just 75 matches from 2008 to 2013. At that point, it was clear that it was time for a change if he was ever going to make it to the professional ranks. As he was turning 26 years old, he transferred to another top-level New Zealand team called Auckland City. Now, this transfer had one big advantage. Auckland City had managed to qualify for the FIFA Club World Cup. That meant in December of 2013, Roy Krishna continued his habit of smashing down barriers. He became the first Fijian player ever to appear in a senior FIFA tournament. He played for Auckland City against Raja Casablanca, and he scored. Auckland City ended up losing 2-1, Roy Krishna being the only goal scorer for the Oceania champions. And it was after that, at long last, in January of 2014, at the age of 26, that he got a professional contract offer. Wellington Phoenix, New Zealand's only A-League club, offered him a 3-month professional contract, lasting only till the end of the season to replace their injured striker. The contract alone made him just the 3rd Pacific Islander ever to play in the A-League. The other 2 lasted just 1 season each. By March 16th, over 2 months into his 3-month contract, it looked like Roy Krishna might be following that same one-hit wonder path of those 2 other Pacific players. But he did not wait this long for his professional opportunity to squander it. That's because on March 16th, Krishna scored his first goal for the Wellington Phoenix, beating eccentric Aussie goalkeeper Andrew Redmayne, who since became famous for his incredible penalty dancing in the World Cup playoffs before helping beat Peru in said penalty shootout to send Australia to the World Cup playoffs. You're welcome for reminding you of that insanity. He created a second goal in the match as well and was awarded with A-League Player of the Week honors, but he was also rewarded with a 2-year contract by Wellington Phoenix just 4 days later. And that would turn out to be a genius decision on Wellington Phoenix's part. I mean, in his first 2 full years, he registered 22 goal contributions in 39 matches in one of Asia's top leagues. I know Australia's not really really in Asia, but their teams play in the Asian Champions League. But the Wellington Phoenix can't play in the Asian Champions League because they're in New Zealand, but they play in a league in a different continent. That makes sense. Just wanted to clear that up. The point is that the talent level and money and fan attention of the A-League is basically Mars compared to where Krishna grew up playing in Fiji. And Mars is exactly where Krishna would lead Fiji. Because as Krishna was putting Fiji on the map as a footballing nation in Australia, the Fiji under-23s responded. They qualified for the Olympics in 2016. Krishna's determination to shine a light on Fiji and all of the Pacific Islands and their footballing talent gave him the reward of a lifetime. He would get to captain his nation at the Olympics. Each team is allowed to bring 3 players over the age of 23, and Roy Krishna was one of them. After getting demolished in their opening match against South Korea, Roy Krishna and Fiji came up against Mexico, a perennial football powerhouse. But Roy Krishna was determined to stun them. He scored the opening goal of the match, and then it got to halftime, 1-0 Fiji. After over 50 minutes, it was Fiji 1, Mexico 0. But eventually the Fijian team tired out, and Mexico scored 5 goals to blow them away at the end. And even though Fiji would end up going out at the group stage, the moment at the Olympics captaining his country ignited something within Roy Krishna when he returned to the A-League. The following season, he dropped 20 goal contributions in 25 matches and was named the Players' Player of the Season. The following year, he was named the Club Player of the Season. Krishna was aging like fine wine, but his finest act was yet to come. His late arrival to professional football meant that he was essentially still developing going into the 2018-2019 season at the age of 31, and he absolutely went off. Krishna won the Golden Boot in the A-League with 23 goal contributions in 26 matches. He led trophyless Wellington Phoenix to the playoffs despite the fact that their defense had conceded 43 goals in just 27 matches. And in the playoffs, he scored Wellington's only goal in a defeat to Melbourne Victory. He was awarded the Johnny Warren Medal, given to the A-League's best overall player. And that type of play was understandably attracting interest, not just from Australia. You see, Roy was in the final year of his contract when he got the Johnny Warren Medal, and there were a lot of debates about where he might land. There was a huge bidding war within the A-League to try and sign the player that had now become the A-League's best striker. According to the New Zealand Herald, Wellington Phoenix won that bidding war in a desperate attempt to keep their star. But big money came calling for Roy Krishna from the Indian Super League. The New Zealand Herald said Krishna's departure was met with disappointment and empathy, but little angst. Phoenix fans understand his decision. He'd only been playing as a professional for 5 years, and they said that people from Wellington understood the need to maximize your earning potential. And as if it was a Disney script, even though they didn't know it was his last match at the time, his last home match in front of the Wellington Phoenix fans was Roy Krishna's first hat trick in the A-League. But this was not Roy Krishna's swan song. He signed with ATK in the Indian Super League and promptly won the Golden Boot with 21 goal contributions in 21 matches while winning the Indian Super League title. ATK then merged with another club called Mohun Bagan, but Roy Krishna was still their Fijian star player, and he won the Golden Boot again. He had over 20 goal contributions at the age of 33. He finished his 3 years at ATK in its various forms with 39 goals and 19 assists in just 67 matches. And right now, Roy Krishna is still playing in the Indian Super League, posting incredibly respectable numbers for a 36-year-old. 7 goals in 12 matches for his new club, Odisha. Heck, he has 4 goal contributions in 6 matches in the Asian Champions League this year. But regardless of what Krishna has left in the tank, which is apparently a lot more than you would think, the utter uniqueness of his journey is unmissable. It would have seemed as likely for Roy to go to the moon when he was a child than to become the A-League's best player. And to his credit, he wants to make sure that the uniqueness of his journey has an impact, and essentially that it never has to be as unique a journey ever again. This can be seen in that very same New Zealand Herald report about his transfer saga, where they report on him saying that he's not the best player from Oceania or even Fiji, trying to encourage scouts to go look there for talent. I'm trying to do well overseas so that agents and clubs believe in Oceania players. From Cook Islands, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Fiji, people don't think islanders have the capability for football. Agents look at the other side of the world. This I want to change. If you enjoyed this video and haven't already, please do subscribe, and if you want to read more about this story from any of the sources we used to research this video, all of those links are down in the description. Thank you to our researcher Isaiah for helping me put this story together, and if you want to keep binge watching, this, in my opinion, is the best video we've ever made. We actually went to the Faroe Islands to chronicle the team that made it into a European group stage for the first time, and it was awesome. I ate fermented sheep. Spoilers.